Welcome to our deep dive into the history of Christmas traditions.
Right.
We'll be exploring excerpts from an academic lecture that challenges some of our most cherished beliefs about this holiday.
Sounds interesting.
Get ready to uncover surprising origins and bust some common Christmas myths wide open.
I'm ready.
What's fascinating about Christmas is how many of the truths we cling to are actually more like cultural myths.
Right.
We often picture a pious and solemn holiday, but the historical reality is much more complex.
Yeah, definitely.
So the image of a quiet, holy night might not be entirely accurate.
Not really.
Where do we begin to unravel this?
Well, let's start with the idea that Christmas was always a purely religious holiday.
Okay.
From the very beginning, feasting and revelry were intertwined with the celebration, even during periods when the church mandated fasting.
That's surprising.
It is, yeah.
Were these just small indulgences, or are we talking about full-blown feasts?
Think more along the lines of a 13th century English king's Christmas feast,
Wow.
which included 27 hogsheads of wine, 400 pigs, and 3,000 fowl.
That's not exactly a subdued affair.
No, not at all.
It sounds more like a massive celebration of abundance than a time for quiet reflection.
Yeah, you could say that.
Was there any pushback against this level of revelry, or was it widely accepted?
There were certainly attempts to curb the non-religious merrymaking,
Okay.
but they rarely succeeded. Even the Victorians, who we often associate with propriety,
Right.
were known for their Christmas drinking traditions.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So it seems like our assumptions about a traditional Christmas might need some adjusting.
Yeah, they do a bit.
Does this also apply to the specific customs we associate with the holiday?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Another myth we often hold is that our Christmas traditions are the original and authentic ones. However, the Christmas we celebrate is a global hybrid of customs primarily drawn from Anglo-American and German traditions.
Were there any specific reasons why those traditions became dominant, or was it a more organic blending of cultures?
It's a complex interplay of historical, social, and even political factors. For instance, the word carol itself has French origins and wasn't originally a Christmas-specific term.
Interesting.
This highlights how traditions can travel and transform over time,
Yeah.
becoming intertwined with new meanings and associations.
Okay, so Christmas is more of a cultural tapestry than a single unchanging tradition.
Exactly.
What about the Christmas tree?
Ah, yes.
That iconic symbol seems like it must have deep historical roots.
You might be surprised to learn that the Christmas tree has a surprisingly theatrical origin.
Oh.
It can be traced back to German paradise plays depicting the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
They used fir trees adorned with apples to represent the tree of knowledge.
So the sparkling decorated trees we know and love started as props in a play.
Yes, indeed.
That's not what I expected.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And the tradition continued even after these plays faded from popularity.
Yes.
Trees were erected in public squares and eventually made their way indoors.
That's right.
The first recorded indoor tree was in 1605, decorated with paper roses, apples, and sweets, quite similar to our modern decorations.
Very similar.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple traditions have such fascinating backstories.
I know, it's remarkable.
But how did the Christmas tree make the leap from Germany to become a global phenomenon?
Queen Victoria and Prince Albert often get the credit for popularizing the tree in England.
Okay.
But it was already present there. However, they did help bring it into the spotlight.
So their influence was more about elevating an existing tradition rather than introducing a new one.
Precisely.
And it was an American magazine, Godey's Ladies' Book, a popular publication at the time, that helped make the Christmas tree accessible to a wider audience.
Yes.
They reprinted an image of Victoria and Albert with their tree, but cleverly removed the royal imagery, making it more relatable to the average American family.
Clever.
That's fascinating.
It is.
By removing the royal connection, they essentially democratized the Christmas tree, making it something that anyone could aspire to have in their home. And that's a key element in how traditions spread and evolve.
It is.
It's not always about preserving the past in its purest form,
Right.
but about adapting and reimagining those customs to fit the needs and desires of the present.
Exactly.
Speaking of adapting traditions, let's talk about Santa Claus.
Okay.
I'm ready to have my childhood beliefs about the jolly old elf shattered.
Prepare to be surprised.
Okay.
The standard narrative about St. Nicholas giving gifts to children has more inaccuracies and is a much more recent invention than many realize.
Wait, so the story of St. Nicholas tossing bags of gold through windows might not be entirely accurate.
No, it's not.
How did this figure, potentially from Dutch or Swiss German folklore, transform into the American Santa Claus?
This is where the story takes a fascinating turn.
Okay.
Two figures, Washington Irving and John Pintard, played a significant role in shaping the American Santa Claus.
I see.
Pintard, a founder of the New York Historical Society, used St. Nicholas as its emblem and held annual St. Nicholas Day dinners. Irving, a writer, drew on Dutch traditions in his satirical history of New York, incorporating elements of the St. Nicholas story.
So they were essentially weaving St. Nicholas into a romanticized vision of New York's past.
Precisely.
The irony is that Irving's work was meant to be satire,
I know, right?
but people began accepting it as factual history.
Yeah, they did.
He even gets credited with inventing the name Santa Claus,
Which is interesting.
though there are earlier newspaper mentions of Santa Claus in the 1770s.
Yes, there are.
These early mentions might actually suggest a Swiss-German connection with the name Santa Claus, which sounds much closer to Santa Claus than the Dutch Sint Nicholas.
That's right.
So the story of Santa Claus is even more layered than we initially thought, a blend of folklore, historical figures, and evolving cultural interpretations.
It is.
It seems like every aspect of Christmas we've explored so far has a hidden depth waiting to be uncovered.
That's true.
Well, I'm ready to dive even deeper into these fascinating topics.
I'm happy to guide you.
Let's continue our exploration of the Christmas we thought we knew.
Great.
We've been exploring some surprising truths about Christmas traditions.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I'm curious to hear more about the tradition of ghost stories at Christmas.
Okay.
It seems a bit contradictory to mix spooky tales with holiday cheer.
It is a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Christmas is associated with joy and celebration, yet we have this long-standing tradition of incorporating eerie tales into the festivities.
Right.
This practice even predates the Victorian era's popularization of ghost stories.
Oh, wow.
Shakespeare herself wrote about Christmas as a time when spirits couldn't wander.
Huh.
It's almost as if the holiday's sanctity provided a safe space to explore the supernatural.
So perhaps it's not about seeking fear, but about feeling a sense of protection during the holidays,
Maybe.
allowing us to indulge in a little thrill.
That's a compelling thought.
Yeah.
Think about how we enjoy crime novels because we know we're safe in our own homes.
Right.
Perhaps the cozy atmosphere of Christmas enhances the enjoyment of those ghostly tales, allowing us to experience a shiver of excitement without real fear.
It's like a carefully orchestrated contrast.
It is.
The warmth and light of the holiday create the perfect backdrop for those chilling stories to stand out.
Precisely.
But let's return to our discussion of Santa Claus.
Okay.
We were unraveling the mystery of his transformation into the American icon we know today.
Right?
Yes, his appearance has gone through quite an evolution as well.
It has.
How did we land on the image of the plump, white-bearded Santa in a red suit? Was it really Coca-Cola's doing?
While Coca-Cola's advertising certainly played a role in popularizing that specific image in the 20th century,
Okay.
they didn't invent it.
Yep.
Illustrator Thomas Nast had already created images of a jolly red-suited Santa for Harper's Weekly in the late 19th century, drawing inspiration from earlier European depictions.
So it was more of a collaborative effort, with artists, writers, and even advertisers, each adding their own interpretations to Santa's visual evolution.
Yes, was.
It speaks to how fluid traditions can be constantly being reshaped and reinterpreted.
Absolutely.
Each generation seems to mold Santa into a figure who best reflects their ideals and aspirations.
Yeah, I think so.
And this brings us to an important point.
Okay.
The Christmas we celebrate today is less about preserving ancient traditions and more about creating a sense of nostalgia for a somewhat idealized past.
That's true.
Are you saying that the picture-perfect Christmas we see in movies and holiday cards with the snow falling gently, families gathered around a crackling fire and everyone filled with joy and goodwill, is more of a fantasy than a historical reality?
Precisely.
Major historical events like the Industrial Revolution sparked a longing for a simpler, more connected past.
Right.
Christmas became a canvas onto which people could project those desires for a bygone era. It sounds like we're trying to recapture a feeling, a sense of warmth and security that might not have even existed in the way we imagine it.
Exactly.
And this selective memory extends to our personal Christmas experiences as well.
It does.
We tend to remember the magical moments and downplay the stressful ones.
Right.
The burnt turkey, the squabbling siblings, the awkward gift exchanges all fade into the background as we construct our own narratives of a perfect Christmas.
That's very true.
It's like we're all editing our own personal Christmas movies in our minds.
Yeah.
Choosing to focus on the scenes that evoke the emotions we want to associate with the holiday.
A perfect analogy.
This desire for a traditional Christmas, even if that tradition is somewhat fabricated, speaks to a deeper human need for connection, belonging, and stability.
Right.
Especially in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
I agree.
So Christmas, with its familiar rituals and symbols,
Yeah.
offers us a temporary escape from the complexities of modern life. It's a chance to create a space where those anxieties fade into the background, and we can focus on the things that truly matter.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to the question of why we cling so tightly to these traditions, even when we know they might not be entirely real. Perhaps it's because they provide a sense of comfort, continuity, and connection that we crave, especially during the holiday season.
That's a good point.
If Christmas is essentially a carefully curated blend of history, myth, and personal memories,
Yeah.
what does that say about the power of this holiday to shape our beliefs and desires?
That's a profound question.
It seems Christmas allows us to create a world, even if it's just for a day or two, that reflects our deepest longings for love, connection, and peace.
I think that's true.
We're essentially building temporary utopias, one gingerbread house at a time, filling them with the traditions and sentiments that resonate most deeply with us.
And perhaps that's the truest meaning of Christmas. It's not about historical accuracy or rigid adherence to tradition, but about the power of shared stories and rituals to connect us to something larger than ourselves.
It's a testament to the human spirit's capacity for hope and generosity, even in the face of challenges and uncertainties.
It is.
The traditions, the stories, the memories, they all intertwine to create something truly unique and meaningful for each of us.
Exactly.
And that's a message worth cherishing, no matter how you choose to celebrate the holiday season.
Absolutely.
We've uncovered so much about the evolution of Christmas traditions and the psychology behind our desire for a traditional holiday.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
As we head into the season, are we simply perpetuating a series of fabricated traditions?
Not necessarily.
How so?
Recognizing that our Christmas traditions are a blend of history-invented narratives and personal memories doesn't diminish their value.
Okay.
It might even enhance it.
If so much of what we consider traditional is a product of our own longing for a certain kind of Christmas experience, does that diminish the authenticity of the holiday?
I think it highlights the active role we play in shaping the holiday.
How so?
Christmas isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create both individually and collectively.
I see.
We choose which traditions to embrace, which stories to tell, and which memories to cherish.
So it's not about being purists or adhering to a rigid set of rules.
No, not at all.
But about finding what resonates with us and using those elements to create a meaningful experience.
Exactly.
And that experience will look different for everyone.
It will.
Some might find deep spiritual significance in the religious aspects of Christmas.
Right.
Others might focus on the joy of gathering with loved ones and exchanging gifts.
Yeah.
Still, others might find comfort in the familiar rituals and nostalgic atmosphere.
That's right.
There's no single right way to celebrate.
Absolutely.
It's like we're all composing our own Christmas symphonies, using a combination of shared and personal notes to create something beautiful and unique.
That's a wonderful way to put it.
And ultimately, isn't that what makes Christmas so special?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a holiday that allows for a multitude of interpretations and expressions, uniting us through a shared sense of wonder and celebration.
Exactly.
Looking back on our deep dive, it's amazing how much history, folklore, and psychology is woven into this one holiday.
It really is.
What are some key takeaways you hope listeners will remember?
Firstly, remember that Christmas has always been more about celebration than solemnity.
Right, from those medieval feasts to the Victorians enjoying their Christmas drinks, it seems the desire to celebrate has always been a core part of the holiday.
Exactly. Those attempts throughout history to curb the merrymaking and feasting never quite managed to extinguish that spirit of revelry.
Secondly, keep in mind that Santa Claus is a far more recent and complex figure than we often realize.
Yes, he is.
His origins are a fascinating mix of folklore, historical figures, and evolving cultural influences.
A real melting pot of traditions.
It's a reminder that even the most iconic symbols of Christmas have their own intricate and often surprising backstories. And finally, I think it's important to remember that our cherished Christmas memories are often shaped by nostalgia.
Right.
We tend to airbrush the past, focusing on the heartwarming moments and downplaying the less pleasant ones.
That's a natural human tendency, I suppose.
We want to remember Christmas as a magical time, even if it means overlooking a few imperfections.
Yeah. We all want that perfect Christmas.
And that belief in the magic of Christmas is ultimately what makes it so enduring and powerful.
It is.
It's a reminder that even in a complex and challenging world, we can still find joy, connection, and hope.
I agree.
So as you gather with your loved ones this Christmas, take a moment to appreciate the rich tapestry of traditions, stories, and memories that make up this unique holiday.
Oh?
And maybe even share some of the fascinating facts you've learned today.
Yeah, it would be fun.
I'm willing to bet even Santa himself would be surprised by some of the things we've uncovered.
Indeed.
Wishing you a warm and joyful holiday season.
And to you as well.
Happy holidays, everyone.